I sit here and I look at that and I wonder where they are today. Are their families okay? Are they still poaching? Are they doing the right thing?
Well, one of them took it all.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And then the other one started seeing how the Rangers started treating the first one, and then he wanted to get in on it.
Now we mentioned it a few times today in passing, but I think it's important to go into it a little bit. One of the things that you hilariously got some shit for last time you were here is when you correctly called out some of the organizations who are quite literally even doing it on the ground, let alone sending in the people and resources to make it happen, weaponry, whatever, and that is ISIS, Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab, and these different terror groups. To also dovetail that point for you and add something to it, a friend of mine who is in intelligence, we'll leave it there, who was tasked with watching multiple regions, including the African continent recently, filled me in to back up that point from you and say it's actually getting worse than what Ryan said when you were on here. And I think we recorded that at the beginning of August 2022. It came out September 2022. And he was like, Africa is actually where ISIS has been rebuilding. And it's very real. He's like, they're not dead. They're very much still around, and they have been basically like licking their wounds and trying to recover in Africa. And one of the ways they're doing that financially is through poaching.
Even if you don't find it in the media, I'm telling you right now, I've got my sources. I trust who trusts the media nowadays anyways? Mm-hmm. But like, if you want to be right on something, this isn't your top, like, go somewhere else. This is the real deal. And this isn't the place for it. Bottom line is ISIS is, we've been saying it since the 60s or 70s that Africa is the next battleground. ISIS plans on making it that. And their way to do that, one of the ways to do that is wildlife. So
fund what they do.
Yeah. So do all your Googling, whatever you want to do, but you can even talk to the think tanks if you want. But most of them will support that, if not all of them. But even those that don't, I'll tell you that they're wrong. I'll be your think tank there. I see it. I've witnessed it. I can tell you where cells are right now.
Well, that's the question. Have you and your team and or some of the groups, like what was your buddy's name again from Tanzania?
Oz?
No.
Oh, Robert Mandy.
Yeah. Guys like him. Have you guys personally caught some of these guys?
I have personally tracked terrorists and apprehended terrorists with Robert.
Confirmed terrorists.
Confirmed. 100%.
And they get put in prison.
Good shit.
When you get them.
What happens to them afterwards, it's up to the government. But most of the time, you'll never hear about it again. Yeah. They don't think kindly of terror groups in Kenya and Tanzania.
I would imagine not. Good for them.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah. Likewise.
That's so, it's amazing that's not covered.
And then from a technology standpoint, like, is there surveillance? And you guys is there cameras involved? Like, I know obviously eyes, ears. You have the with the donations support all of the technology and the trucks and everything that you guys have. How do you cover, like, just covering all this ground? And as you said, people don't usually do this during the day. They're not doing this, in plain sight, and so to speak. They're doing this at, in the middle of the night.
Yeah, so we do have some drones.
And you don't have to tell me.
No, it's fine. I'll tell you what I can. We do have some drones, UAVs that are industrial level / military level to a certain extent. Anything that is not allowed to be exported out of the States due to ITAR restrictions, if we can get it in South Africa legally, obviously legally, we get it there. That said, we do have some UAVs. The reserve, our headquarters reserve, actually just got 2 more this week that have night vision and thermal capabilities, AI capabilities, which is great. They fly long term. They can land with it. There's a box in the middle of the bush. If they start running out of power or inclement weather's coming in, that box will open up. It lands in there, recharges while it's closed, and when the weather clears, it's full of battery and gets up and goes again. It can track vehicles, people, animals, once it learns all the AI stuff. We started getting into the satellite imagery close to real time as much as possible. And these companies love to, you know, they have all these resources. They're mega big time companies. And at the end of the day, they give you a lot of hope. You know, we could do this. Maybe there's a potential for sponsorship. But then at the end of it, they want, you know, $300,000 a year just to give us access to their satellite imagery in a very small area. And it's like, come on, dude, we're a charity here. Don't sell this to us. Like you have the capability to make a difference here, to help save a species and support those veterans and these organizations that are doing this. You're making enough money. Why don't you hook them up?
Yeah.
Isn't that your responsibility? Like everybody in life, no matter what you do, you have a responsibility to serve others in some way. And I think this is a good opportunity for these satellite imagery companies to really step in and change the landscape of wildlife protection.
But there's also, I hear a lot of these stories from you, because the crazy thing about a lot of the undercover work you guys have done over the years is you end up bumping into a lot of other things that have nothing to do with what you're doing that you kind of uncover. And I know some of those you obviously can't divulge, but like, there is such an insane international dark side of capitalism, if you will, that occurs within the African continent in all kinds of businesses. We've seen the stories like the cobalt mines and stuff like that. Again, I've heard some of the ones that you've told me about that blew my mind. Like, there's so much that people are already taking advantage of there, and yet, I don't mean to be a cynic, but do we expect some of these same companies who are operating in that type of territory, okay, implicitly at least, with some of these kinds of things, to really give a fuck and want to help out, you know?
Well, I choose to be optimistic. I choose to. I mean, I hope that somebody steps up and does the human thing, the right thing, and helps out, because, you know, we don't operate off an endowment. We'll get there one day, because we're not quitting. I mean, we've been doing this long enough.
Yeah, we got to get you there.
And we'll make it happen, but we ain't paying no $300,000 for satellite surveillance that you've already got.
Put it at 435, if you don't mind, Alessi, and pause it right there. I wanted to bring up this video too. This is another one that's been played on podcast before. Yeah, right there. Pause it right there. So one of the things I love about the approach that both you and Paul Rosalie have, your buddy Paul, and Ryan, if you go look at 117, was the guy who started putting this all together here, introduced me to Paul, all that. Very cool to see all these worlds come together. But Paul in the Amazon, you in Africa, your goal is more common sense education, if you will, for some of the people there who are involved in these. In some cases, there are literally some locals who are, you know, roped into this to do this or whatever. And the approach is not to so much go after them and destroy them versus it is changing hearts and minds. And I love this clip that I want to put full screen, and we'll kind of narrate it because it is owned by Discovery. But stick this full screen if you don't mind, Alessi. This was you on Discovery, I guess, doing a feature back in 2017, something like that?
This was 2014.
Oh, this is even farther back.
Way back, yeah.
So what you're going to see here is there are a couple locals in this case who were caught poaching. And this guy, we can play it now, Alessi. This guy who's one of the investigators is telling you, and I'll read on the screen in a second, this night we have to talk to them very, very seriously, but we have to torture them. We have to use like at least a bit of reasonable force so that we can like have the crucial information. And he's telling you this, the information which we need to get us exactly the people we want to start. And your approach is, no, let's go in there. Let's talk with these guys. Let's say like, okay, you're playing for the wrong team right now. You obviously got caught. You're in trouble. But why don't you think on it? And I'll come back tomorrow. And if you and if you want to tell us where all these cells are who have hired you and take us there, we can look at you potentially becoming park rangers and joining Team South Africa. Or was this in South Africa?
This is in Tanzania. Yeah.
Team Tanzania. In this case, it's a very cool clip. I'll put the link down in the description, but it's literally showing you on the ground with these guys telling them this. And that approach, this is the peacemaker approach. You know, warrior guy coming in, having to take care of some shit, but you're not in there, you know, putting holes in heads where you can change current holes in hearts and mend them up.
I think that East Africa specifically, but conservation at that point had really humbled me. I was no longer, was I capable of doing what I did in the Middle East? Absolutely. But I realized, this isn't the Middle East, and you can't be a bull in a china shop. These are real people. And if you saw where these men and their families lived, it'd break your heart. It would break your heart as an American.
Just total poverty.
They only got water every now and then. Water was not even they were lucky to have water during the day. They were lucky to have corn or maize. It's crazy. It's crazy. So who the hell am I, as some blonde kid from Florida, Marine or no Marine, I don't care what my background is, who the hell am I to come over an ocean to their country and say, do it this way because I said so? Absolutely not. That's not how you get somebody to be on your team.
When you do run into and again, it's important to note that a lot of times you're not running into locals who are just trying to feed their families. It's like quite literally terrorists and stuff. That's a huge, huge misconception people have. But when you do run into the ones where it is that, and, they were obviously hired by bad people, but they are trying to, literally get water out of their spout for their family. Is there a part of you that even though you hate the act and you don't agree with what they're doing, it's the opposite of your beliefs? Is there a part of you though that does have real empathy for that?
For these people like this? Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I do. Again, I have more empathy for the animals. However, I have enough empathy for that person to give them a chance to do the right thing. I have that mutual respect that every human should have for one another until proven otherwise. I sit here and I look at that and I wonder where they are today. Are their families okay? Are they still poaching? Are they doing the right thing?
Well, one of them took it all.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And then the other one started seeing how the Rangers started treating the first one, and then he wanted to get in on it. He's like, okay, they weren't kidding. Like, it was kind of cool to see, but man, the one guy though that didn't agree to do it in the beginning, the one that was sitting in the white shirt against the wall by the window, man, I felt really sad for him because he had the opportunity to really change his life around and really help his wife and his kid, and it's out of my hands. I don't know what their judicial system ended up doing with him.
Do you think he was afraid of what the people
That's what
above him in the line might do to him and his family?
Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
I can understand that.
100%. I try to put myself in their shoes to think like, yo, what's this guy going through? I can't imagine that. Can you imagine the stress? Like,
no, you think about our everyday stresses, and it's
whole different playing field there. Thank you for watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.